the general relationship between science and religion. And I want to hear your thoughts about this. So outside of whatever people like or wouldn't like to label you, what do you think is a thoughtful scientist supposed to think, or the most reasonable thing that a thoughtful scientist is supposed to think about religion? Now I'm talking about religion in general, not just about the supernatural specifically, not just God, but also religion as an institution and so on and so forth. I mean, you think that there is any such thing as, oh, well, yes, scientists really should be thinking along those lines, or I expect them to think more about those lines?
Yeah, I can't and I won't speak for other scientists. They have their
But you
own...
just spoke for Dawkins. But yes, okay.
Well, I know him personally, so
right,
I can make some judgment as to how he would have responded to those questions. But I can't and I won't speak for other scientists, but you know the statistics as well as I do. In some surveys, it's as high as 40% of scientists in America would claim a personal God, a God to whom they can pray, who would intercede in their daily affairs. And it's fascinating to see the spread among the scientific disciplines in that number, because some would come in higher and others would come in lower, of course, so that it averages at about 40%. And the astrophysicists, the physicists, the biologists come in lowest. The mathematicians, engineers come in highest, above 40%. I'm intrigued by it. That's an intriguing fact. If you want to say that high education and scientific training promotes atheism, how come that number isn't zero? In fact, go to the National Academy of Sciences and do the same survey with them. The number still does not go to zero. It asymptotes. It's about 7%. You've seen the numbers. Yep. So 7% of the most elite scientists claim a personal God who answers their prayers. And if you can't convince that 7% of the absence of God as an ardent atheist, why are you running around to people who are not so educated, who are not so scientifically trained, and complaining that they're a bunch of idiots for how they feel? I think that's disingenuous. It's an unfair battle you are picking when people in your own church,
so to speak,
right, disagree with you about that very premise.
Yeah.
And so that's how I view this. I think it's convert the 7%. And until that goes to zero at the National Academy of Sciences, shut up about what the rest of the public thinks and feels. Unless, let me make it clear, because in my Big Think video, I analogized gathering atheists together to talk about their disbelief in God as I analogize that to, well, is there a word for non-golfers? Do non-golfers all gather and complain about the fact that other people watch golf all the time? No, of course not. All right? And by that same rationale, I cannot see myself going into a room talking about how God doesn't exist. I can't do that. I want to do different things with my time. However, I see myself as a responsible educator. And in that role, if you want to put your creation philosophies into a science classroom, I'm going to stand at the gate and prevent that. Right. With all that I can, with all that I can in my power. I know we've got other people who are in the courts doing it, and that may be more than I have the energy to do, but I'm going to be vocal about it. And I'm going to say, no, it doesn't belong in the science classroom. I'm not saying it doesn't belong anywhere. Put it in comparative religion. Put it in religious philosophy class. Sure. Go ahead. I don't have an issue with that.
To be fair, I hear you. To be fair, of course, I think I'm going to. It's my turn to channel Dawkins now, and somebody like Dawkins would say, yeah, but golf players don't do quite as much damage to humanity as some, at least religious.
No. So the issue there, the issue there is not that religious people through religious wars and right. other crazy behavior, like flying planes into buildings. It's not that religious people mess up society. That's the wrong way to look at this. The issue is dogma in any form messes up society. You can have political dogma, which has no less guilt messing up society as religious dogma. The issue here is dogma. You fight dogma. And if it happens to be under the guise of religion, fine. But as an educated scientist, atheist, if you're going to go out there and fight religious people, you're really fighting dogma, where people want you to believe something in the absence of evidence and make that policy, make that educational curricula, make legislation based on that. That's where you have problems. And that's where you get Nazism. That's where you get the Lysenkoism.
Yes.
That's where you get all of these isms that have risen up that had, some of them even had some patina of being academically derived, but when you actually part the curtains, there is dogmatic invocation of rules established by some committee of people who decide how they want you to think about all the various topics.
I agree. When I want to piss off my atheist friends, I always remind them of the secular regimes of the 20th century and the disasters that they've caused.
Pol Pot, for example, and the like.
Stalin and so on and so forth. I mean, those are. I think you're completely right. The problem is dogmatism, and the problem is ideology pushed to the extreme. Nonetheless, I think Julia has the next question up, right?
Yes, thank you. Well, it fits in nicely to this thread that we're on right now. So I personally, if I, were queen of the universe and could snap my fingers, I would.
And why wouldn't you?
I mean, if you were God, go on.
Yes, to be apropos.
See, that was a sentence that was not in your head. But you say, queen of the universe, snap your fingers and make something so. That's God. So what you're saying
I don't want
is,
any labels to be put on me.
Oh, okay.
Fair enough.
So I would prefer that people would all just magically become allergic to dogma and evidence-based and, reasoning people who don't take anything on faith, whether it be about claims about the supernatural or about politics or economics or what have you. And I think that, pursuing that goal is very valuable, and it's something I'm personally trying to do as well. But there are still specific beliefs that I think plausibly cause a lot of damage to our country or to the world because of the way those particular beliefs affect the way people vote on drug policy or on gay marriage or on national security or foreign policy. And so I think there's a good case to be made that if you can't cure everyone's susceptibility to dogma, which you probably can't, there's still a lot of value to be had in trying to attack particular beliefs.
What you don't want is dogma being the source of legislation, dogma being the source of curricula, dogma being the source of political leadership. And other than that, if people just have a view that if someone feels Jesus is their savior, that's sort of dogma within their personal lives. It only becomes an issue. It only becomes an issue.
And the way they treat other people.
It only becomes an issue if they want their dogma to apply to everybody else. Right. Then it's institutionalized dogma,
right.
And then that's the problem. So yes, you fight that. You don't fight the individual. That's my point. And as an educator, I will educate people so that they will enjoy science, become scientifically literate, and maybe some of that will prevent them from trying to bring their dogma to others or bring their superstition to others.